Hello everyone, welcome to round number 4 of the European Team Chess Championship 2017. Coming to you live and direct from Chersonissos in Crete, the lovely Crete Maris Hotel. And today we have a bunch of big pairings. We do have the Russians, the only team that has won all the matches so far, facing the ever-solid Hungarian squad, one of my favorites for a medal. That is certainly a big one. In the open section, in the women's section, there is the pairing of the number 1 seed versus the number 2 seed. Russia is facing Georgia. Russia already defeated the Ukraine. If they can defeat Georgia as well, there should be no stopping the Russian ladies. In the open section, it's way too early to come up with such predictions, but we have to praise the efficiency of the Russian squad so far. They've won all the matches, but they've only won a total of 3 individual games. Out of their 12 games played, they won 3, drew the other 9, and they've distributed these 3 wins across the 3 matches, so that they are the only team with 6 team points, followed by a bunch of teams on 5 points. I have memorized it. Germany's up there, Hungary, Israel, Armenia, Poland, the Netherlands and Croatia all on 5 points. So there's still quite a bit to play for. And here we have a view into the very spacious playing area. Let's go to the top board. There we can see David Navarra for the Czech Republic. I meant with the camera, but we can also do it with the thingy here, because Alexander Grishuk facing Peter Leko is the birthday boy. Alexander Grishuk turning 34 years old today. Happy birthday to Mr. Grishuk. And I believe one player that almost everybody has on their list of favorite players, because what's not to like? He's a fantastic player and very strong theoretician, tends to get into huge time trouble, so he provides great entertainment for all of us most of the time. So far in this tournament, he's been quiet, made 2 draws on the top board. But as the German saying goes, a good horse never jumps higher than it has to. And the Russians so far have managed to win all their matches. Let's see if they can pull it off today against Hungary. It won't be simple, because Hungary is a very solid team. Peter Leko, I've talked about this yesterday when he played Anish Giri. Don't be fooled by his relatively, of course, for Super Grandmaster standards, relatively pedestrian rating of 2679. This guy used to be one of the top 3 players in the world. He's still working very, very hard on his chess, and he remains extremely hard to beat. That's why he's on board 1. Board number 2, we have the Hungarian blocker, the very solid Viktor Erdős, facing Jan Nepomniachtchi with the white pieces. I think the colors work in Hungary's favor here. They have their solid guys on board 2 with the white pieces, because otherwise Erdős, I believe, would have been a target for the Russians to work, but with the white pieces he should not lose to Jan Nepomniachtchi. Nikita Vityugov on board number 3 versus Richard Rapport. Now, a very interesting clash of styles. Vityugov, a very serious, solid, well-educated, all-around strong player, against the extremely creative Richie Rapport, who so far in this tournament has done very well, but has also played surprisingly solid chess. If you guys recall his game yesterday, he did not manage to win against Benjamin Bock, but he certainly came close, chipping away in some endgame. Richard Rapport, so far 2.5 out of 3 for the Hungarians, is their goal-getter on board 3. But with black against Vityugov, he has his work cut out for him. Then board 4, Zoltan Almasi faces Daniil Dubov. Slightly surprising to me that Russia is resting Maxim Matlakov, who outrates Dubov by around 50 points. But they believe in Dubov, who's drawn his first 2 games, then got a rest, and is now back. And the only board where Russia is outrated, I would guess, so far in the entire tournament, because Zoltan Almasi is a 2700 player who is sitting on board 4 for Hungary. And if there is a game plan, I'm sure it does include Almasi, maybe putting some pressure on Daniil Dubov. I believe we have liftoff, so let's have a look at some first moves. Alexander Grishuk played 1 d4, which I'm not sure if this is a surprise for Leko or if he's not at the board yet, because in my little tool here there is no signs of a reply to 1 d4. And there we see Richard Rapport trying to shake everybody's hand on the Russian team. Shakes hands first with his opponent Vityugov, and shakes Dubov's hand as well. It does appear like Peter Leko is not there yet. Not like him to be late. In this tournament there is no zero tolerance rule as far as I know. Or is it? No, I don't think so. 15 minutes. You can be late there. So you don't automatically lose the game by not being at the board when it starts. Still, slightly out of character for Peter Leko. On board number 2, Viktor Erdős lives up to his solid reputation and chooses a line that looks dumber than it is. This line, amongst others, has been played recently by Magnus Carlsen, who got a winning position versus Maxim Vachier-Lagrave with it, which he then went on to bungle in the Sinquefield Cup 2017. It was also played by Timur Rajabov against Peter Svidler, another game that White won later. Alex Lenderman also scored a victory in this line versus Ayantari in the World Cup. So this very innocuous d takes c3, going for an early queen exchange, has caused some victims. White doesn't really want all that much. He wants to go e4, bishop to e3, and argue his pieces. The king goes to c2, and argue that his pieces are slightly better placed than the black pieces. Black has a choice here. Bishop f5 is a move that MVL and Peter Svidler played to make e4 a little harder. Was met by knight to d2, when, yeah, it can't be much, but surprisingly, it seems like White can ask some questions here. And of course, Viktor Erdős, outrated by more than 100 points, probably felt like it can't be a horrible idea to get rid of the queens very quickly against the tactical monster that is Jan Nepomniachtchi. Richard Rapport continues his reinvention as Rapport 2.0 solid player, even though the Queen's Indian is something we've seen from him quite frequently. He's played this as his main opening during, for example, the Vaikanzai tournament, which he played earlier this year. So no big surprise to see him go e6, b6. In general, yeah, with the black pieces, it's harder to be creative without getting too horrible a position. So Rapport sticks to a line that he's played in the past. b6, g3, bishop b7, bishop g2, bishop b4 check. Bishop to d2 is the main move here. And I believe Rapport's weapon of choice is the move a5 then. We shall see. On board number 4, in Almazhi Dubov, it looks like one knight to f3. g6 has made Almazhi think a little bit. This g6 is an interesting move. It's a bit of a bluff, actually. Or at least I consider it that way. Because I believe Dubov wants to go for the Grunfeld. And if you go knight to f6 here, then after c4, g6, knight to c3, d5. White has a bunch of interesting anti-Grunfeld systems. We've seen queen c2 yesterday, queen b3 is a move here, queen a4 check, h4 is something Levon Aroni likes to do, and so on and so forth. Of course you can play like Nepomniachtchi and play the c5. That's also not everybody's cup of tea. Therefore, the point of Dubov is you start with g6, and if White does this delaying d4 business by playing c4, now you go bishop to g7, and if White continues delaying d4 after knight to c3, you play the move c5, which is considered to be a fairly solid setup for Black. If White tries to trick you into some King's Indian by playing e4, then e5 is a good move for Black. So that's not so easy either. While whenever White goes d4, let's say after bishop g7, then Black is ready to transpose back to Grunfeld territory by going knight to f6 and after knight to c3 playing d5. So the only way to exploit this early g6 is to play the move to e4. Of course, assuming you don't want to transpose into a Grunfeld. And I guess Almazhi is pondering that option. Some knight f3 or d4 players aren't too comfortable with it, because after c5 you arrive into sort of Sicilian territory. However, Almazhi, as far as I know, has been a 1e4 player most of his life, so I don't think this should be shocking to him to play the position after e4, c5, d4, or after e4, bishop g7, d4. Therefore, yeah, interesting opening poker there in Almazhi Dubov, and it looks like Almazhi still weighing his options. Peter Leko has arrived at the board, and Alexander Grishuk, to celebrate his 34th birthday, decided to treat himself to a London system, or as he calls it, the correct bishop's opening, referring to the fact that e4, e5, bishop c4, what people normally call the bishop's opening, is less exciting than d4, knight f6, bishop f4, in Grishuk's opinion. Grishuk has experience playing this line, amongst others. He used to defeat Vichy Anand in a tournament game, I believe, in the Sinquefield Cup, maybe a year ago. Don't quote me on that, I'd have to look it up. But he used it against Vichy, and he's played it quite a bit. Peter Leko, a fantastic theoretician, is used to people trying to get him out of his main lines by going for an early bishop to f4. And he replies with the kind of humble move to e6. He doesn't want to start with c5, giving white the option of d5 or dc5, which was recently played. For example, by Levon Aronian against Garry Kasparov. There's some other moves here, but those are the most critical ones. e3, queen to b6 is considered to be fine for black. Anyway, Leko doesn't mind committing to e6 early, and after e3, now he does play c5. When the game could still take many turns, if white plays, for example, c3, it's still very possible to transpose to a line that I recommended in my video series, my Black Repertoire for Black. Black Repertoire for Black. That should have been the title. Knight f3, bishop to d6. Very playable line, where Grishuk, I believe, also has experience, having played a game against Nakamura in the past. Bishop to d3 is another option here, and so on and so forth. But Leko could also try to do without the move d5 and play a setup that I believe I've seen him play in the past as well. Just play b6, bishop b7, bishop to e7, short castles, and take it from there. So don't expect any fireworks in the opening, right? And yeah, Leko has taken on d4 and played with b6. He's just gonna play solidly. Bishop b7, bishop e7, short castles, d6, knight bd7, and tell Grishuk to do your worst against this very solid hedgehog-like setup. Alright, so the top match in full effect. What else we got? There on camera I can see my countryman from Germany on board number 2 facing Poland, if I'm not mistaken. On the top board we have, hard to see from here because the top board is all the way up there, Livio Dieter Nisipiano against Radek Wojtaszek, who probably, I was going to say he's not there, but he was just blocked by Jan-Krzysztof Duda. There we can see Radek Wojtaszek, who has the shorter hair of the two players on board 1, if you are wondering which side is which. Nisipiano decides to play the close Sicilian against Radek, which, I don't know, he might have been inspired by Magnus Carlsen, who won a very quick game against Radek Wojtaszek in the 2014 Olympiad, if I'm not mistaken, in the close Sicilian, even though Magnus decided to put this knight on h3, not on e2. Wojtaszek, one of the scariest theoreticians out there, so no surprise that Nisi is not going for a theoretical debate and instead is trying to play it slow, but it doesn't seem like Radek is overly concerned by it. Knight to e8 is a typical maneuver. First of all, getting out of any tricks on this long diagonal with e5 if you ever want to play b5. Therefore, yeah, preparing rook b8, b5. If you need it, the knight can go to c7, either to support b5 pushes or also en route towards the d4 square in the center. White will typically try, I don't know, to build up on the king side, f4, g4, f5, queen e1, queen h4, bishop to h6. This is a plan that every British schoolboy knows. But I have to admit, I'm not very familiar with the subtleties here. I'm not sure anybody on earth is very familiar with the subtleties here. But that's maybe also Nisipiano's point, to just play chess. Board number 2, Jan-Krzysztof Duda against Georg Meyer. Georg Meyer so far 2.5 out of 3 has been doing very well on the German squad, and Jan-Krzysztof Duda chooses the Karlsbad structure here, the move c takes d5, e takes d5, bishop to g5, c6, e3. This position, yeah, this used to be kind of part of my black repertoire. I wanted to play the move bishop f5 here, but ever since the match, the game Carlsen-Kramnik, Norway Chess 2016, people have sort of stopped doing this because this has been proven to be quite unpleasant for black. The big revelation was this maneuver knight e2, knight g3, put a knight on f5. And black was suffering, and that has created a bit of a crisis amongst 3 d5 aficionados. Vladimir Kramnik, for example, has switched to the move knight takes d5 almost exclusively these days. And a lot of people have had to have a closer look at the Nimzo Indian after knight c3, bishop b4. Yours truly included. Anyway, Georg Meyer, strong theoretician. Let's see what he's up to here. He includes h6, and after bishop to h4, he plays the move bishop to f5. This is curious. I'm not 100% sure what his point is after queen to f3, but I am fairly sure that he does have a point. Maybe he just wants to do the same thing and then argue that the pawn on h6 favors black in one of these lines. I'm not sure. Back to h4. I'm not sure. Would have been interesting to find out. But Jan-Krzysztof Duda has decided not to test him with queen to f3 and instead played bishop to d3, which is sort of an admission. Okay, I've never seen this h6, bishop h4, bishop f5 business before. I don't want to find out your computer preparation. I will just play solid chess. But normally, if you can exchange these light square bishops without direct punishment, black is supposed to do quite okay in these positions. Bishop e7 played by Meyer. I would guess that Duda will try to justify his setup by putting the knight on e2, then playing for a quick e4 in the center, or going for some knight g3, knight f5 business maybe. But yeah, it does look like Georg Meyer managed to surprise Jan-Krzysztof Duda in the opening. Board number 3, Matthias Blühbaum, who's also had a good tournament so far, 2.5 out of 3 as well, faces Kasper Pjorun. Similar ratings, these two, both 2-6. 40-somethings, I would guess. Yep, Blühbaum 2-6-43. Pjorun exactly 2-6-40. And another King's Indian for Matthias Blühbaum, I believe, in an earlier round. He played a system with an early bishop e2, bishop e3, without knight f3, but that's very hard to do if you start the game by putting the knight down. So in this one, Blühbaum goes for another very ambitious setup, h3, e5, d5, championed by Yevgeny Tomaszewski, the former Russian champion, who's had quite some successes here, winning some nice games against the likes of Alexander Grishuk. White wants to go for g4 and go for sort of the full court press, not allowing black to play f5, not allowing black to breathe anywhere. But of course it does come at a price. The white king will not have a very safe hiding spot. For me, this has always been very tough to understand all the subtleties in these positions. What goes where? Does this knight go here? Does this knight go here? Does this knight go here? When do you play f5? When do you play c6? It's, yeah, not exactly my cup of tea. Knight ac5 looks strange to me because it runs into b4. But I've seen people even discuss ideas like, I'm not sure, this might not have been the position, but something like this I vaguely recall as a topic in these lines. So we'll see what Kasper Pjorun has up his sleeve here. Matthias Blühbaum with the white pieces playing ambitiously. On the bottom board, Daniel Friedman versus Mateusz Bartel. Friedman, I guess, slightly higher rated, but yeah. 2-6-13 versus 2-6-26. And Friedman playing the solid Petrov. A line that I don't know much about, to be perfectly frank with you. Here, bishop to e7 is a popular move, bishop f5 is the trendy move, and bishop g4 is an older line that never really reached mainline status. I thought knight c3 was supposed to give white a little something here as well. But Bartel goes for an endgame very, very directly. Guessing this is part of his homework. He hasn't spent a lot of time yet. Bishop to c4, knight to f6, bishop e3, knight d4, rook fd1, knight e6. Black is pawn up, but white has a bit of a lead in development and the two bishops. So we'll be curious how Bartel tends to continue here. I'm guessing he's still in book. Maybe some knight b5, hoping for a6, bishop takes e6, f takes e, knight a7 check, king b8, rook takes d8 checkmate. But I have a feeling Daniel Friedman would probably not fall for that, and instead maybe return the pawn and try to develop some pieces. Oh yeah, this looks like a logical follow-up. Actually, white would be teeny tiny bit better because of his two bishops. What's on camera? My eyes are terrible. That's the Slovenian team there. Now we're switching to Azerbaijan versus Israel. Is that Azerbaijan, Israel? No, sorry. Spain versus Israel. I thought that was Rajava. I was confused. What's he doing on board number 4? Trying to find the game in my little tool. Hang on, but Israel is not playing Spain. Stop confusing me. This is Israel-Croatia. There, Ilya Smirin on board number 4. Yesterday we discussed his, well, not his masterpiece because he lost the game, but his very interesting game, versus Garry Kasparov from the Soviet Union Championship 1988 with Boris Gelfand. Boris Gelfand knew all the details about it. Goes to show you what an encyclopedic knowledge all these guys have. And Ilya Smirin is facing Sasha Martinovic for Croatia on board number 4 there. Martinovic probably went to the Magnus Carlsen School of Nutrition during the game, brought a bunch of orange juice there, even though Magnus recently, I believe, has converted to water. Probably thinking, okay, I'm no longer such a young man, I can't have all these carbs while I'm playing. I'm not 100% sure what the science says. Okay, since we have on camera, let's look at that match. On the top board, there you can see him. If you have really good eyes, Boris Gelfand studying the position. He has the white pieces against Ivan Saric. And now Martinovic blocks him. There we can see Ivan Saric. Oh yeah, that is the Croatian top player. Has done an interesting video series on Chess24 about the Gioco Piano famous opening. And I believe he's claimed, but don't quote me on that, that he has not read a non-chess book for a long time, which I'd like to criticize him for. But who reads books these days? Okay, don't quote me on that either. I sometimes read secretly. Anyway, as for the position, after g4, bishop g6, knight takes g6, h takes g, bishop to g2. Gelfand has the two bishops, but Saric clearly is still in his preparation, has not spent a lot of time. It's this typical discussion, is not having the two bishops a factor here when you've placed all your pawns, or almost all your pawns, on the color of the bishop you're missing. Therefore you're left with only good pieces. And yeah, I would guess, of course, Gelfand, since he chose that line, he believes that white does have a nibble here, but it won't be easy to make any progress against this very solid black setup. Board number 2, Marin Bosicic. There you see him with not a lot of hair versus Maxim Rothstein. We can't see much of Rothstein's face. Bosicic has been around for a while. He's a solid 2600 player. And Maxim Rothstein is closing in on 2700, isn't he? What's his rating? Yeah, 2699. That's as close as you can get to 2700 without it. Rothstein, big theoretician, plays the Grunfeld. And the two are debating one of the sharper lines. There are, after queen to b3, d takes c4, queen c4 castles, e4, knight to a6, which has been making a bit of a comeback. People used to play a6 followed by b5 here, almost exclusively, but knight a6 recently has been employed quite a bit. So we'll see what Rothstein has up his sleeve. Bishop e2, c5, d5, e6, castle, e takes d, e takes d. And I vaguely recall, I believe Sutovsky recently, well, it's not that recently, experimenting with knight to b4 in this position with some very sharp lines. Sometimes I sacrifice a queen here. Bishop g5, knight b takes d5, rook a d1, knight takes c3,